Welcome back, everybody. This is episode number 23 of Clicks and Bricks. Today we're going to be talking about websites, specifically WordPress versus HTML.
Yes.
And I'll give you a disclaimer right now. I have taken lots of classes on HTML. Mm-hmm. I do know the basics of HTML. I don't know what current version we're on. I think, are we still HTML5, Ron? He's not watching. He's not paying attention. Ron, what version of HTML is the latest version of HTML? What version of HTML are we currently on? 5 still? It's been a minute, so we've been on HTML5 for a while. Okay.
Cool. That's where we are.
All right, so I was correct, but I've not really kept up on HTML as a whole because pretty much if you know the basics, you can Google the difference in anything. So, but before we get started, if you want to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. Join my text community, and I'll send you random text messages, tips, tricks, tools of the trade, different stuff. I will not try to sell you anything. If you want consulting or you want to buy something, feel free to reach out and let me know that. Otherwise, I'm never going to try to do that through one of these text lines ever. So feel free to join that community, and we can just talk. Sometimes it's going to be stuff about podcasts, stuff about business.
Right.
It might even be motivational stuff. I love boxing. Depending on what comes across my feed that day, you might get some cool stuff. Just really laid back and casual kind of text line community. So
a great place to belong to, right?
Yes.
And my name's Brian. Don't forget to text my line at 314-216-2040. The type of things to text would be questions that you have. Whether it's a tech question or a business question, we answer those through consulting and whatnot. If you have a topic that you want to talk about on the podcast, let us know in that text line too, okay?
Yes.
And let's get started.
Or if you want to book me or Brian on your podcast, we're looking to be booked as guests on other podcasts as well.
Yes. Yeah, we're here for you guys too.
Yeah.
For the podcasters.
Yes. So.
All right. So today's episode is going to be about websites using WordPress versus HTML code. But before we do that, we must dive into our Between the Cubicles, one of my favorite times of the day.
I don't know. I don't even know what the topic is today.
I don't know what the topic is either.
Oh, well,
but I talked to Nick prior, and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I think we should mention this. And he was like, cool, let's do it.
Okay.
I want to give a moment of silence for DMX.
So today I have Billy Gina's marketing. Mm-hmm. I belong to his group, and he did a whole big tribute this morning to DMX, and I said too soon. But yeah, too soon. I not too soon for a moment of silence.
Okay, cool.
It's definitely time for a moment. DMX is huge for me, man.
Yeah,
I love DMX.
Everyone did when I grew up.
Yeah, super cool guy. Music is just infectious, man. So
yes, that was the reason why I wanted to ride a motorcycle, because of DMX. The Rough Riders, dude. I'm like, oh my god, I want that life.
Yeah. So, what is a moment of silence? 10 seconds. I don't want to waste your time, world.
How about a 5 second? Because it's
5 second moment of silence for DMX.
That's cool.
All right.
And family.
All right, DMX, thank you for everything that you've done.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, both Brian and I, we train boxing classes, and if DMX comes up while we're training boxing,
it's crazy, man.
It gets off the hook, and I absolutely love. I've never heard anything from DMX that I didn't like.
Likewise. So shout out to DMX, shout out to his family going through a hard time right now. I really hope you guys can have a smooth transition moving forward, okay? But moving along, what we're supposed to talk about in the Between the Cubicles. Between the Cubicles today is brought to you by Inlink.com.
Oh, yeah.
Inlink is a rapport made easy. So if you are a business professional, you are an entrepreneur, you are a wantrepreneur, and you want to make sure you get everyone connected on your social media, go to Inlink.com. The best part about it is that it's free, and you can put all of your social media outlets on there on top of your website. So you got payment gateways. I mean, it's just everything you really need to make rapport super easy.
If you want to check out my Inlink, it's inlink.com/Ken. And there's links to the Clicks and Bricks podcast on there, my personal social media profiles, Hosterian business profiles.
We all have one.
All kinds of stuff, right? So you can then give out one URL, and you can then you don't have to worry about, you don't have to give them your TikTok and your Instagram and your Facebook.
Just put that all throughout your stuff.
It's just one user account for all of those things. And I've heard a secret that they're getting ready to come out with some new tech. So I'm super excited about some of the stuff that's going to be coming out from Inlink.
That's really exciting then.
Yes.
It's already groundbreaking as far as I'm concerned, but I can't wait to see what's going to happen next time.
Yes. So
awesome. So check that out. Today's Between the Cubicles will be about your trip. And what was your favorite part?
Oh, my
of your
trip.
Yeah,
Oh.
man. Give us a nice little summary or something. The viewers want to know.
Yeah, so I just got home this weekend. I went on a trip to the desert, Mojave Desert, which was a lot of fun. It was supposed to be a trip where I've got a really big Jeep, and I was going to take it through Mojave Road. But my Jeep started having issues about 4 weeks before I went. I had a bunch of suspension issues, and I went to the shop, and I wasn't comfortable doing that. So
pretty good timing, though.
yeah, so me and my college roommate, best friend in high school, we flew out to Vegas, spent the night in Vegas, and then from there we drove down to Bullhead, Arizona, hottest city in the state, in the country. And from there we one day we spent we rented UTVs, which is like those little dune buggy kind of things, but not as racy as a dune buggy, right? A little more utilitarian, right? So we got it like 60 miles an hour, right?
Oh, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. But from there we drove through the desert. We got lost out there. We had a lot of fun. We little town hopped, right? Because if you're familiar with the desert, you can drive through the desert and pop up in little different towns. So
small little places.
Yeah, we drop in little town. We'd have a beer, and then we drive on to we'd get lost again.
Cool.
We'd find another town.
Get lost again.
That was when I was a kid. I'd go to the desert. That was my favorite thing to do, is get lost in the desert. Which sounds scary, and I know that we lost somebody this weekend in Death Valley, and that's a shame. Actually, the week while we were out there, we lost somebody in Death Valley, which is it's tough, right? If you're out in the desert, have your sat phone, have your SOS buttons, guys. It's a big deal, right? I mean, you get lost out there, especially right now. It's monsoon season. Those flash floods can happen. It really happens. You get lost out there and you can't find your way home. You need GPS, or you need a sat phone, because you got to be able to communicate to people. Because if something happens out there, man, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And then the next day we did jet skis on the Colorado River, which was just so much fun.
Yeah. Motorcycles on the water, dude.
Yeah, it's like 3-dimensional motorcycles or 4-dimensional motorcycles, right? You can go way down, up, all kinds of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. We just really goofed off, and then we did another night in Vegas. We stayed at the new Circa Hotel in Vegas.
How was that?
It's really nice. The swimming pool was phenomenal. Little bit bummed that a lot of the old school Fremont Street shops are gone, because they had to tear down 4 casinos to build Circa.
Oh,
yeah. So some of my favorite places in Vegas.
Fremont's awesome, dude.
Fremont Street, yeah. So Fremont Street is turning in. They're going a little more high class. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Marijuana is legal in Nevada now for recreational use.
Right.
So the entire Fremont Street used to just smell like patchouli. Now it smells like patchouli and skunk. So, needless to say, things got weird. We leaned into it, and it was a whole lot of fun. Right? We just had a blast. Right?
Favorite part?
My favorite part of the trip?
Yeah.
So there's this little town called Oatman, and it's so cheesy. I've been going there since I was a little kid. It's maybe a mile long, and the town's got these wild donkeys that kind of just roam up and down. And beers are $2 a Bud Light or something, and just sitting there and goofing off with the donkeys, throwing food at them, and having a beer and looking out over the desert. Right?
So they're okay with you feeding the donkeys?
So when I was a kid, we'd feed them carrots out in the desert, right? And that got us in trouble. The donkeys were getting sick and stuff from the too much carrots, and I guess because they're sweet to them, super sweet.
I thought they love carrots.
They do love carrots, but they overeat them, and then they become a pest. If they think you have a carrot, then they'll. Think about a dog that's trained to go after treats. A donkey's way bigger. So they were having issues with them gumming into the restaurants and stuff.
Oh my God.
There's now no carrot signs everywhere in the desert. Don't feed the donkeys carrots. But you can then buy these bricks of food that you can feed them. So
or you could have a donkey rehab.
Yeah, you gotta get them off the carrots, right?
Get them off the carrots. You gotta wean them off slowly.
Once they start thinking, oh, I get carrots if I be an asshole, then they be assholes all the time, right? Oh, I'm gonna do this until I get this person's carrots.
Right.
They'll give me a carrot, I'll go away. I don't know why they got rid of the carrots, but they did. But yeah, I'm assuming it was some kind of problem, because they literally have don't feed the donkeys carrots.
Something bad happened.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just a fun little town, and it's my favorite part.
That's cool, man. I like how your favorite part is not the mainstream part that everybody knows about.
Yeah. Yeah, there's London Bridge out there, which is super cool, right? They tore down London Bridge. They moved it to Lake Havasu. Lake Havasu is amazing, right?
Oh,
Lake
man.
Mead's pretty sad. The Hoover Dam, it's way down, man. It's super. It's not shallow. It's still super deep, but you can see the lines where it used to be.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's like 200 feet, like
That's
lower
crazy.
than what it used to be.
That's
so,
crazy.
Yeah, on the high side of Hoover Dam, the water's not near the top anymore. So like the overflows are empty. So yeah, it's sad. We have a water issue in this world. I don't know how we're going to solve it. I'm aware that we have a water issue. I don't know if everybody is.
I don't think most people are, man.
I mean, in America, we have a water issue, but it's not significant right now. Everybody's got access to fresh water for the most part.
Right.
In a lot of other countries, they don't, and it's sad.
Absolutely.
And as our population continues to grow and we keep doing bad stuff like throwing our trash in the oceans,
Right.
it's going to become more and more depleted. And I don't know what the end solution is for this.
Well, it's like for all the resources that we use. I mean, there's a lot of things that we use that we just like destroy.
Yeah, but water's an important one.
That's a pretty big one.
Like our water and our air, right? We can do a lot with just water and air.
As I sit here with my 101 ounces of water right here because I can't.
Yeah, but you use that cup every day, right? You're not throwing it away every day, and
Right.
and that's important shit that you're doing. Like for the world, if everybody did that, we would cut down on bottle consumption dramatically. So
I mean, I think I'm a pretty big deal for doing it. I mean, I don't know why everyone does it, but you guys heard it here. So,
yeah.
All right. So, I'm glad you had a great trip, man.
Yeah, it was a
I know
whole
you
lot
had,
of fun.
you had to change it on the fly, and I know you really want to get out there with your Jeep, dude. I couldn't wait to hear those stories, but you still.
Yeah, but I got out in the UTV and we got in some trouble. I mean, we had we hit some 40, 50-foot cliffs that we slid down a little bit, and we got out.
Did you roll it?
No, but we definitely put our lives in danger, right? We went to the edge. We got to the edge of what we could do without going over. That comes with age. If I was younger, I would have tried to just dive right in.
To see what I could do.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a whole lot of fun, and
That's awesome.
It was off the beaten path for sure. It was definitely the whole week was about taking the road less traveled.
And I love stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
I really do. I can talk all day about this, but
Yeah.
we are here to talk about websites, WordPress versus HTML code. All right, so let's dive right in here. So our first question here: do we need any kind of summary or kind of background for this? Or we just dive
So
right in?
first, I think if you don't know the difference between HTML and WordPress, WordPress is a tool that creates HTML, PHP, MySQL all together to help you create really elaborate, highly functional websites fairly easily, right? I don't believe that you can make a really good WordPress website without having some HTML knowledge.
You have to have a little bit.
You have to have some HTML knowledge because you're going to get into the basics. And when I say HTML knowledge, I'm talking about the knowledge that a 15-year-old kid had 10 years ago with MySpace, right?
We're talking like Windows 95.
Right. You have to be able to at least look at the code, understand what's going on, and then make some modifications from there. So, just like, for example, right out of the gate, WordPress, and you've probably all seen this, and you'll be looking at like a website for a motorcycle sales company in your town.
Right.
And at the bottom it says, site developed by, and it's got the WordPress theme in there.
Mm-hmm.
There are tools that can help you edit that, but if you know HTML, it's a couple of minutes versus finding a tool, installing it, having this extra stuff on there.
Learn how to use it.
Yeah, learn how to use it. So if you know how to get into under the hood a little bit and use HTML,
Right.
then it's good. And even inside WordPress, there's the edit CSS, which is cascading style sheets, which is part of, you use it with HTML.
Right.
PHP is a language that does database lookups and takes the data and presents them in HTML to the browser. So HTML versus WordPress, at the end of the day, WordPress is a lot of HTML.
Right.
If we say HTML by itself, HTML5 is pretty powerful today. Like there's a lot of new functions in it that I think I started with HTML1, 1.0 when I took my first class at WashU.
When was that?
1996.
Oh man.
97, 96, 97, somewhere
I mean,
in
but
there.
in technology, man, that's like eons ago, right?
It feels all the same to me, but
really?
yeah. I mean, I was using Fetch instead of FileZilla. I was using Notepad instead of Sublime. but still, head, title, all those things are the same thing, right? Subject, body, these are all words that we use every day that are defined, and they're inside brackets inside HTML.
They just
So
change one piece of it, still the same thing.
fundamentals are there. It's just the continuing add-ons, right? So
Got it.
with HTML today, you can do tables really easy, where it used to be kind of challenging, and there's HTML table builders, and then knowing that the world changes and being okay with that really sucks. There's some things that I'm not okay with change. There's a lot of things that I am, but then they deprecate code so that some things don't work anymore, but that's so that they can make new things work.
And that's the part that gets frustrating, because you don't know what all is gonna break, and you gotta go back and find the break, and then find a new solution to it.
Right, but depending on how evolved your tech team is, right? If you're actively looking at error logs and fixing things when they break, hopefully you can find some of those errors before your customers do.
Well, and hopefully that depending on the program or plugin you have, they told you something was getting ready to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, most WordPress sites today have hundreds, at least 5 plugins, maybe, and some of them are 20, 30, 40 plugins, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, right out of the gate, we build a new WordPress website.
It's got about 20-something.
Right out of the gate, we've got 5 plugins. We've got Backup Guard Pro, we have Elementor Pro, we have WPMU Smush.
Soft Tackless?
No, Soft Tackless will help us install WordPress. We have WP Secure, and one other one that I can't think of.
That pop-up one?
Oh, all the Elementor Jetpack, right?
Yeah.
So,
there it was.
But Elementor we install Jetpack, but then Jetpack is just an easy way to pull in more Jetpacks.
Right.
So right out of the gate, we have just to have a WordPress site that is up, functional,
about
secure, auto updates. It's like 5 plugins right out of the gate before you ever make a page.
Man, it blew my mind even getting into WordPress, realizing that WordPress works best with plugins, man. Like, unless you do everything in code.
Well, I mean, the new, is it Kubernetes? It's not Kubernetes. What's the new grid layout for WordPress called? And I say Kubernetes. It starts with a G, but I've been talking about Kubernetes all day. So, yeah. WordPress has a new, and it's Elementor-ish, a new default builder.
Nice.
And it's very blockish. It's not nearly as clean as Elementor.
Elementor's legit, man.
Yeah. Grids Plus. They call it something different. Grid. Okay. Yeah. They have some name for it, and it starts with a G. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head, but
if you text us, we'll text it back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you use WordPress, you know what it is because it's right there in the beginning.
Right.
You can switch to old view or this new kind of layout for design, and I think the new one's better. Not significantly better, objectively better. It's subjectively better.
So is everything.
Elementor is not subjectively better. It's significantly better.
Yes, man.
Right.
Yes. There's no debating that.
Yeah.
At all.
All right. So I think that's a basis of the difference between WordPress. WordPress is kind of WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. HTML is just pure code, and you can build it from scratch, or you can get HTML templates.
Right.
But you're going to have to have some. You have to have more knowledge of HTML. It's less forgiving.
Yes.
Than WordPress.
Yes. Absolutely. So our first question is by John, and John says, can you break down building a website with WordPress and the difference between that and building a website with code?
Okay. So just building a website right out of the gate with HTML. The first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to start with a website package. And so you're not going to use any kind of website builder, right? No.
Right. All code.
The last one that I knew was Dreamweaver, last one I used. I've not used an HTML builder in a long time. So the first thing you have to do is understand FTP, which is File Transfer Protocol, how to get files from your desk to the server, back and forth. And really today you're probably using SFTP, which is Secure FTP, which is going to encrypt the data between your desktop and the server.
There you go.
So that's the first thing you need to know how to do. You have to understand file structure very well.
Is that a hard thing They do?
It's a really amazing. So some people get file structure immediately, and other people's really struggle with it, right?
Interesting.
So inside your website, if you're doing HTML, you have to know the difference between absolute URLs and relative URLs, which is huge. Inside WordPress, you don't need to know that at all.
Right.
Right. You can just hit the little chain, and it says where do you want to link it
to,
and go. Where I want it. You will make better, faster WordPress sites if you know the difference between relative and absolute URLs. If you use relative URLs versus absolute URLs, your site will run faster.
Why is that?
Absolute URLs, for instance, let's use, we'll use inlink.com, right? Inlink.com/Ken is an absolute URL. Once you're at Inlink, and I was going to go to click another link and say I was going to go and click the About Us page,
okay,
right? Inside my code, since I'm already at Inlink, I only have to reference aboutus.html. I don't have to reference inlink.com/aboutus.html. The difference is if I reference inlink.com, then my computer has to do another lookup for inlink.com to figure out where it's hosted, and it goes through that entire process of loading the site again, right? So if you use an absolute URL every single time, then the end user has to do another DNS lookup. Now, if his computer's set up properly, he probably has that cache, so it's really fast. But we're talking milliseconds here anyway. Then it's got to find the path. If it cached it, so it doesn't have to do a lookup, but it has to go through that process again every single time.
I mean, I know we are talking about milliseconds, but when you're online, man,
they count.
That feels like a year, dude. When
yeah. So whenever you're trying to cut off every single millisecond, then not doing DNS lookups saves lots of milliseconds. So if you consider, if you do that on every single link and you go to relative instead of absolute, then you save a lot of time over the whole experience.
Got it.
Right? Because the user's already at inlink.com. That's his home that he's currently at. So going to anything / on there,
they're already there. So
the code doesn't have to re-reference HTTP : / the whole thing. It just has to reference its other place. Part. So, which is pretty simple to understand until you start talking about 5 and 6 directories deep.
So we start
knowing where you're at,
page, and then the other spots on the page.
Right. So, it used to be really common to have IMG as a folder on your website. It was one of the first things, and that was your image folder.
Right.
Right. So every time you referenced an image, you had to go, IMG, your image name to reference the image. Well, if you get 10 directories deep, then you have to go back 9 directories, or 10. You got to go back 10 directories to even get into your IMG folder, right?
yeah.
So that's when people start using absolute URLs because it's easier for them to code. Go back to the base URL and then there. In HTML, that's an issue. Some programming languages like PHP and Go and other things, there's solutions to that problem, right? You can say, anytime I say use doc_root to go to the document root and then go there again. So there's variables that you can put in place to help, but not just plain HTML.
So you have to know a little bit more.
To make it easier, knowing some other languages would help, right? Other things that help really are includes, right? So inside in HTML, if I were to create a menu bar, either I can put that menu on every single page, which is tedious, and then if I want to change the menu, then I got to log in, I got to touch every single page.
Right.
Or you can do an include, which you create the menu bar and then you include it on every page, and then if you change the menu, then it changes it everywhere. WordPress just thinks about all that for you.
There you go.
It just thinks about all of it, all of that stuff. You don't have to do it. So I would recommend that one of the first things you do in WordPress is turn on permalinks. That's important. You don't want for search engine optimization. That's one of the very first things that you're going to want to do. Otherwise, and you've probably seen websites like this where it's like, kenswebsite.com/p = 27 and then the date, right? It's just weird. It's not very human readable, right? It's very computer readable.
Numbers, signs, and all that kind of stuff.
So turning on permalinks, post name, category name, that kind of stuff, depending on what you're building, is one of the very first things I do.
Yeah. So I mean, so it sounds like really, I mean, if to answer John's question, right, talking about the difference in building a website in WordPress versus just straight code, I mean, you just have a lot more flexibility in WordPress.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between making a slushy with a blender or a hammer. Right? I mean, that's about the difference in difficulty, right? Yeah, they both can do it, and if I'm really good with a hammer, I can make a hell of a slushy.
You sure can.
Right? But if I've never used a hammer to make a slushy before, it's probably going to be challenging.
Yes.
Right? But if you want to learn, if you just like learning and playing with nerd stuff, it's kind of fun to learn that kind of thing, and then see the text that you put in on a notepad, create stuff, and create a site.
Yes.
So I'm gonna try not to answer future questions because I could really go off and I could probably talk about one question for a whole hour.
I bet you could. I mean, you built. How many websites have you built at this point now?
I have no idea.
Do you have some kind of range?
No clue.
What's a bottom?
So I know that I've worked on. I think Ron and I did over 30,000 websites, maybe even 100,000. Huh? It was a lot. I think we're close to 100,000 websites that we've worked on or migrated or something,
man.
right? Built, it's over 100 that I've personally built.
Gotcha.
Right,
gotcha.
in all kinds of different languages and stuff. I get bored easy, so
you like the break fix then?
I do like the break fix. I prefer break fixing over creation.
Gotcha.
The hero hat of fixing somebody's feels a lot better than the creator hat, right? Because the creator hat
does not get as much love, man.
It does not get nearly as much love,
it doesn't.
right? At all.
I learned that the year I've been building websites here. Like I was like, man, I worked so hard on that website.
Yeah, and it's like constantly criticized and all this other stuff. But if you just fix somebody else's break, then you're the hero. And the site still looks like shit, but it's not your fault.
They're just happy that they can see that it looks like shit.
Right, yeah.
And now it works.
Yep. Yes.
That's crazy.
But a working website is important, right? And
yes.
Not everybody appreciates that.
Yeah. Until it's just like everything, man. People don't appreciate their health until it's not there.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So, I mean, websites, it falls that same bucket.
Yes.
Right? So, John, hopefully that answered your question. If it does not, be sure you just hit us up, right? Hit us up on text lines or reach out to any one of our social media outlets where you can ask questions there, too. We're open book. Just talk to us.
Absolutely.
All right, so move on to Joel. And Joel asked...
We're right at the halfway point. Are we doing tech?
Oh, we are.
Tech history?
This week in Tech History brought to you by...
My Team Fitness. Everyday workouts for everybody. Coupon code Clicks and Bricks for 75% off.
Yeah, 75%.
75% off your monthly subscription. We drop a new workout in your inbox every single morning. They're 10-minute full body, no equipment needed. Sign up. Have a great day.
There you go. Have some fun. If you're looking for a place to like, if you don't know where to start your workout, it's a great starting point.
Yes.
I mean, if you're in recovery, great starting point for you. Okay. All right. So this week in tech history, today's the 13th, isn't it?
I think so.
Today,
yes,
in 1970, Houston, we had a problem. The oxygen tank aboard the service module Apollo 13 explodes.
Wow. So this is Apollo 13.
Apollo 13. Man, I remember watching the movie did it for me, man. Like I watched the movie so many times as a kid. Like outer space used to be so like there's so much to it, man. I was like, oh my, how much space is really out there?
A lot.
And we still have no clue really.
Right. So Apollo 13, they pop the air tank and something else happens, right?
Yeah. They had some communication issue, I think, too.
So running data centers, this is something we talk about all the time. 1 is none and 2 is 1. And Apollo 13, from my understanding, and I'm not an astronaut or a space engineer by far, was designed to have any 2 simultaneous failures. But it was not designed to have any a third. Right. Yes. So they had that air tank busted, and then multiple components were broke because of that.
Yeah.
And that's why they had such a challenging time.
Getting back home.
And the funny thing is that they still, from my understanding, they still engineer for 2 simultaneous failures.
I did not know that.
2 simultaneous catastrophic failures is the risk threshold.
Wow.
Right. If I lose one, I've got another one. right?
Man, that's scary. There's no way I want to get in that, be in a space ship.
I mean, those astronauts are, there's some,
they're a different breed, man.
they're a different breed. And we use that a lot whenever we're talking about catastrophic failures inside data centers. And I've been through
quite a few,
100 of those in my life, probably. Some here, some in other data centers, right? Is when that ship was going down, they didn't panic and scream. They didn't yell at each other. They didn't point fingers. They just worked the problem, right?
I mean,
and you work that problem until you either get out of it or you die.
I mean, there's not a lot of time to really be fighting.
No, right? So, and I think there's a lot to be learned from that kind of mentality of, hey,
Absolutely.
we're just going to work this problem. Like, forget all your personal stuff, forget all that other thing. Just, you have a problem in front of you, solve it. I think Apollo 13 is a great story for that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, consider that, if they lost the oxygen tank, like, they didn't have the oxygen to argue. It's like, listen, man, if you got words, it'd be important right now.
Apollo 13, as great of a movie it is, I think I like Hidden Figures better.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that's another movie about Apollo 13, right?
I don't know if it's Apollo 13, but it was about space. Was it Apollo 13?
I'm pretty sure she did the math to help those boys get home.
I can't remember. I didn't know it was Apollo 13. I just knew it was about something with outer space.
So it was...
And NASA.
Yeah, it was NASA, outer space, all that stuff. I think it was on Apollo 13 because she was doing the math to help them...
figure out how they can figure out...
Or it might have even been one of the earlier Apollos on how to get out. I recall Apollo 11 being part of the story, too.
Yeah, I definitely like Hidden Figures. I just thought it was a really interesting story on how it put together. And I love hearing stories of underdogs, like, just fighting through all the junk and trash and being like, man, I wish we'd have listened to them earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love the underdog winning.
Yes.
Always have.
So, Apollo 13, great movie. Hidden Figures, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
and I would recommend to watch it with your daughter if you have daughters, because it's very powerful.
Or just with kids, really.
And then shout out for all of NASA. Yeah, all kids. It's a good wholesome flick.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Good family movie.
So.
All right, shout out to NASA. Yes. Thank you, NASA. Thank you for the astronauts that are risking their lives out here, because there's no way in hell I'm getting on a spaceship, dude. I'm not for going to places where I had to bring my own air.
I do plan on dying in space, though, right? My plan is to, when I'm dead, to be cremated and then have my ashes in a low Earth orbit balloon sent up, so that I can just circle the planet for all of eternity.
Oh my gosh, man!
That's my death plan.
You're still stuck on that.
Oh, that's bought. Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's in the directive.
Like, it's done, man.
I'm gonna end up in space for eternity, before the planet explodes or implodes, which we'll all end up there eventually, right?
Yeah, and that's for another podcast on
like
another day.
Another 10 billion years or something. I don't want to wait that long.
Got it. So thank you, My Team Fitness, for today's tip in tech history. Today in tech history. Can't talk. All right, move along. Molly says, do you need prior knowledge of HTML to know how to build a site on WordPress? And she asks, does knowing HTML code make it harder because you have to unlearn what you had to learn to use WordPress?
Oh. No, you don't have to know HTML to build a website in WordPress. It will help you.
Very helpful.
But you do not have to know it. I would say you'll have a more polished product if you do know it.
Yes.
Right? You can polish it a little bit more with if you have some HTML knowledge. And I think if you have HTML knowledge going in, I don't think it's going to affect you at all.
I think if anything, just like it's kind of like your first answer. It's just going to help you be more polished.
Yeah.
You can dress things up just a little bit more.
Yes.
Right? Like when Dustin taught me how to do the anchor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not even a big deal, just an anchor. But it looks really cool on the website.
Right, and so you're talking about text anchor. Whenever you click a button, it drops you down to a specific section on the page. Right.
So helpful for so many different websites.
So some things are, you can do them in HTML faster than you can find the plugin and all that other stuff. And then, I mean, we talked about plugins earlier.
Yeah.
Try to be... So I have a dev site that I can just junk up all the time, right? I can throw any kind of plugin on it that I want, test it, and move on. I would say don't install the plugin unless you have a significant need for it. Auto SSL is another one that I use always, right? So I want all of my websites to be SSL'd all the time.
Yes.
So I use a plugin called Auto SSL to make sure that that happens. Because if I forget, which I do, then I don't have to think about it at all. But you don't want to just haphazardly throw plugins in there. And for me, I very much make sure that when I'm installing plugins that I disable them and delete them from the site if I'm not using them. I think we just went way off topic. But the answer is you do not have to use no HTML
Correct.
to build a WordPress site, one. And then two, knowing HTML prior to going to WordPress is not going to affect you at all. It's only going to enhance. Right?
There you go. So you have to worry about having to unlearn really anything because you can still use code in there.
But it doesn't mean that you don't have to learn WordPress. Right? You still have to learn WordPress. It's not, it is very intuitive, but it's not wildly intuitive.
Yes. I mean, there's definitely a learning curve for WordPress. And
I would say the learning curve's not huge.
It got better when I got Elementor.
Yes.
Then understanding how to use the elements better made WordPress make more sense. But without having that, I'm like, man, I just can't do what I want to do to this website.
Right. Like, and then the plugins, right? Like we use on a regular basis Restrict Content Pro. We use, I know we have a photography plugin. We use Import Pro. And I'm a huge fan of buying the pro versions of plugins.
Yes.
Right? Because if you're going to have and these people are making this stuff to make money, right? So they're going to give you a plugin that doesn't quite do what you need it to do for free.
You always have to buy the pro.
Just spend the money and stop trying to hack a way around it. And I think you'll end up being happier. Because most of these plugins, the pro version is like $300 for a lifetime license.
Yeah.
Right?
So when they update it, you get updated.
Yes.
Like all that good.
So you don't want to be in a position to where your business is dependent on a piece of software that is going to update regularly and you can't get updates for it. It's a very miserable, because then that's a scorched earth rebuild situation.
You're done.
You're done. You're stuck there. That code might work for a very long time, but it's the minute that somebody publishes an exploit for that plugin, you're dead in the water. They're going to exploit it, and the manufacturer of the software isn't doing updates anymore, or you didn't pay for the updates, so you got to rebuy it again.
Right.
So.
And with the way that technology is going, it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time of when it's going to happen. So like, set yourself up for success.
Yes.
That's probably one of the best advice I can give for anyone building a website. Don't go cheap on it. But buy the things that you need to have to make it look and feel the way you really need it to function. It's only going to help you in the long run. I mean, if you go cheap on it, it's going to look not as good. It's going to look cheap.
Right.
So it's probably going to perform cheaper, which is not. It's not going to make you feel happy about it.
Right.
And why would you do something that'll make you feel happy?
I don't know.
Don't even waste your time with it. Okay? Yes. So moving along here, we're on to Tammy, and Tammy says, is it possible to blend WordPress with HTML? If so, if it is possible, would that complicate things to where it would not even be worth the benefit?
Depends on what you're doing, right? So the answer is yes, you can. At the end of the day, WordPress is an HTML creator. It creates HTML, right? That's what it's doing underneath. So just a point-and-click way to create HTML pages.
So give us an example of both.
It's tough, right? Because there's not a great reason to do it other than, so say I want some functionality in WordPress, but I don't really want to use WordPress for some reason. I would say the only time that would work is if you're the only person ever going to work on your website, right? And you had this, you know how to do this way in HTML, you know how to do this way in WordPress, but the two are never going to look the same, right? It's going to be it's going to be really weird. So the only reason I would think to do that is because HTML loads faster than WordPress, right?
Yes.
WordPress is a little bulky. It has some bulk on it, but it has wild functionality and wild flexibility very quickly and easily. So you give up some things for that. There are some plugins like WordPress to HTML. Okay. And you would use those. So if you had a website that you were building that was fairly static content and you wanted to turn that into HTML because you want it to load faster on the server.
Like, yeah, like videos or pictures or something like that.
No, not so much. So if you had a bunch of math, so say you had a page, so WordPress is going to create all your content's going to be in a database.
Okay.
And it's going to query all that content. So if you had a content-heavy page, like couple 100,000 lines of code, maybe of text.
We had a website with a guy that all he did was record the stats to high school football players.
Right, so he puts them in there and then goes. So yeah, WordPress to HTML would speed that side up because it doesn't have to look for those numbers every time.
Right.
It looks for them, publishes them, and then goes. So if you can imagine, I did a wrestling website. Right.
Similar kind of thing.
And it had all the wrestlers' profiles and statistics and all that stuff. And every time you clicked on a player's name, I had to do a database lookup. There's caching and things like that you can do on the server to speed it up. But if you want to pay, the $5 hosting fee, if you can convert your WordPress so it's easy to build it into HTML and it loads fast, then that's, kind of the holy grail. And then you don't have to worry about, if you do it that way, and you're using WordPress on a different server or something that's hidden from the world, and you're publishing just the HTML from WordPress, then you really lose a whole lot of security issues too.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but that's I would say that would be a pro tip, right? Like,
okay.
Definitely something for a pro to do. If you're a novice, you're not probably going to be able to figure out the structure behind that. You're not going to be able to write the scripts to take your WordPress HTML and put them on the server, things like that. So it'll be clunky, and I think if you were a novice, you would probably end up throwing that away and just using WordPress, because for you it's like, oh, I can handle a 1 second load time.
Right.
Right.
It's not going to mess up my site.
Or even there's a 5 second load time. Oh, that's not a big deal. My users will wait 5 seconds.
I mean,
they will, right? They'll use those 5 seconds, and then you got about another 5 seconds to capture attention. So I want to take the whole 10 seconds that I had to capture their attention to be looking at my page, not a loading bar.
Right.
Right.
I mean, and based upon like what I was searching for, what their the website was for, would determine if I even continued going forward.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just goofing around looking for random stuff, you'll just go on to the next thing. But if you're looking for something highly specialized, a very specific bolt pattern for a carburetor for a very specific motorcycle or something.
You're like, screw this, and what's the next one?
Yeah, but if you're looking for something specific and that's the only place it is, then you'll wait.
I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
If I'm looking to go find the Mardi Gras events, I will wait until it gets through loading.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's the only place you're going to find it.
Exactly.
You're not going to find it anywhere else.
Exactly. But I mean, I don't know. I just the more I dive into it, and the more I don't know as much as you do clearly about this subject, because you've been doing it for like 20 times longer than I have. Yeah. But the biggest issue I found really with the blending the two is that like you kind of have to blend the two, because there's just some things that just work really well using the code. But the problem is like it's updating the code. Like it's just a pain in the butt to update when WordPress makes it so much easier to update your website.
Yes.
Right. So it's a game changer.
Right.
For time, it's game changer what you have the flexibility to be able to do, because if you can't figure out...
I mean, people watch me work on a website, and I'm in a program called VI, which I still use. I think it's the best text editor on the planet. And they look at me, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, they don't even understand what they're looking at, right? And I'm really fast when I do it, too. So it's just, it's my skill set. That's all it is, right? I have a couple of decent skill sets in the world. I don't have a lot of them, but I have a couple, and I practice the hell out of them. Right?
I mean, I think that's pretty good advice right there.
And I'm not the best at anything that I do, right? So, I mean, there's some things that I would argue I'm the best at, but none for the show.
None for the show. So. Right there to the edge. Get right there.
Yeah, right there to the edge. Okay, we stop and we move on.
Awesome. Let's keep it going. We're on our last question here with Scott. And Scott asked, have you personally ever had any disaster scenarios in your website building career that you could talk about? And I'm trying to get a good idea of what things that could possibly happen when building my own site.
Yes.
I'm laughing because I know you.
Yeah, so I think I'll give you my largest catastrophic mess up. And it almost always comes down to human error. So and I'll even go higher than website. I'll go to websites.
Okay.
So we have, at Hosterian, we have about total 30,000 servers, roughly, running. I don't know the number, right?
A lot.
It's over 30,000 servers in total that are running, and they're all doing different things. And we've been through a lot of acquisitions in our life too. So sometimes we have environments that are called, I'll use one, atcihosting.com. And this is relevant for this one. So we have servers for ATCI hosting and we have servers for Hosterian. Well, sometimes it's called shared 1, shared 2, shared 3.atci hosting. And then we have S1, S2, S3. Hosterian.com for server 1, server 2, server 3, right? Those kinds of things. And then one time, I needed to reload an S server, so s8.hosterian.com, and I put the ticket in, I talked to the guy, and he went and loaded a brand new operating system on shared 8.hosterian.com, or .atcihosting.com, which had a couple thousand websites on it.
Oh, no.
And we were able to get them all back, but I think so if you lose a server, to load a brand new server and have it ready is 4 hours.
Yeah.
Right? To do QA, to make sure that it's up and ready, you can cut some corners and do that, but if you're going to do any kind of significant workload, you really need 4 hours. You want to do quality assurance on the server. You want to make sure the hardware is good. You want to make sure that the operating system is good. You want to make sure that it's patched. You want to make sure that you can authenticate. You want to make sure that it's secure before you put anybody's content on there. Right? So this guy, he accidentally loaded the wrong server and took down like 1,000 websites.
No, man.
And we got the server back up. It took about 4 hours to get the server back up, but 1,000 websites is a couple hundred terabytes of storage, right? And he deleted it all. Like literally deleted 1,000 websites. And so then it was just a matter of sites were just coming up as their backups were being put back up. So it was a rough day for sure.
How long did it take? Was everything got taken care of that?
I mean, within 5 hours, we had some sites back up, but I think it was probably a couple of days before we were back 100%.
Oh my gosh.
14 hours? Okay.
That's pretty remarkable then.
Ron remembers it very well.
Ron's like 14 hours, 39 minutes, and 12 seconds.
I mean, Ron was doing a lot of the recovery work. So I would say that was on a website level my biggest catastrophic event. I put the work order in. I put the work order in correctly. He got confused with S versus shared. He got the right number.
One letter off.
It was one word off, right? It was s8.hosterian, and he reloaded shared 8.atci. I think you probably heard me say this today. The guy, we were in a meeting. He's like, "Oh, the actual URL is," and I'm like, "No, it absolutely matters. Those details absolutely matter. So let's stop acting like details don't matter.
Yeah,
because they do, right?
They do.
And different stuff between S8 and shared 8, same thing. No, they're different.
Yes.
And in a website world, the difference between a capital A and a lowercase a is all the difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're different letters. The biggest challenge when you're doing websites and when you get into coding is escaping from HTML to PHP and back and forth, and escaping special characters, because commas and forward slashes and all those things mean something. A space can destroy you,
God,
right?
People mess up that space, man.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, it's tough, right? So I think the biggest issue is doing stuff without backing things up, right?
That was going to be mine.
Yeah, always.
Back up, man.
And I beat it into people, and they just don't do it.
You gotta back up.
So in the hosting world, we want to make sure that we have multiple systematic systems in place that are going to make sure that it's backed up. So, we back up every day. Some sites we back up every hour. Some sites we back up every 10 minutes. Really depends on what's going on. Like our back offices, we keep real-time replicas. Every time data is written to one server, we write it to another server. Every single time. Because if a server crashes in the middle of a billing process,
that's a problem.
Then it's a nightmare to sit there. You got to go through all those transactions one by one to make sure to even know where you're at.
Yeah.
Right? To even know what's going on. So,
right.
That's a challenge for sure. people in there working. I was, my roommate that I went on the vacation with, he's a big wig. He works for a company now called Red Zone, and they do software for manufacturing plants. But he was at Yodeling and InvestNet. He's a big wig in all those places. And he's pretty adamant on people shouldn't even log into servers anymore. Like you
don't even mess with it.
Like you should not even. There's no need to log into a server at all. You should have enough tools on the outside of the server that are doing those things for you. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact that the less you keep people the more you keep people out of servers, the more you keep them out of the data center, the less breaks you have.
Facts.
It's that simple, right? So the number one cause of any outage is a person that did something wrong.
You can't get over human error, man. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, the big ones are people in there doing stuff, not backing it up before they move. I don't believe that the company's ever lost somebody's data that was paying for us to secure it. There have been situations to where people have bought a dedicated server with a single drive, and that drive fails, and they did not pay for backups, and the data's gone, right? And I would say there's plenty of workloads in the world that's decent for, but not for websites.
Yeah. You
don't want to lose your data on a website.
No.
So
not for the most part.
That's the most part. And then there's people ask me to build stuff for them all the time, websites, flyers, all kinds of stuff, and I'm pretty good at most of those things. But I'm a horrible speller, so my biggest issues on websites are spelling. So I have to make sure I have a lot of quality assurance. Somebody's always behind me, proofreading and those kinds of things. So because I'm not going to, if you hire me to do a website, I'm not going to proofread your content. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to make it look pretty, but I'm not proofreading it.
You kind of do everything Jeep-like. Like just enough to hey, it's working.
It's working.
I spelled all the words wrong, but it's working though.
It looks pretty. It looks great. Everything works. But somebody has to come behind me.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't know how to spell. It's that, I'll spell production. Like if I had to type production or promotions was the one this weekend that I did. Right? The word's promotion. And I know it's ION, but I just type fast. And sometimes it comes out OIN, right? And that happens. It happens quite a bit.
Human error.
And because I like command line editing, there's no spell check in that stuff, right? WordPress does have some spell check in it now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's WordPress so much as Google Chrome.
Or actually, it could be an element. It's all usually an Elementor. So I think Elementor has some
spell checking built in now. So that helps me out quite a bit.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm not in when I'm building a website, I'm more in a mechanical mode than an artistic mode. I'm not in an English.
Nowhere near that.
Or grammar mode.
I just want everything to work.
Right, and then I'll have Nick come behind me, and or my wife or somebody else come behind and say, "Okay, hey, this is how you do it." But I'm really now only getting into websites. The only thing that I really do today is break fix or basis of design. That's where
you kind of live at.
That's where I live at. If I'm going to do anything at all, it's going to be a basis of design help, or a break fix, or some kind of goofy project that we just need to get off the ground. So I'll take it and I'll get it to a place where I can hand it to somebody else.
I kind of like the break fix too, man.
Yeah.
I like having someone say like they're stuck. And I'm like, listen, I can unstick you. Right. I'll get you over that hurdle and go for it. Definitely much more appreciative of it. And I would also agree with you. Like, I think the biggest thing when it comes to Scott's question here is that you just got to back it up. Start, finish, back up.
Methodically.
Yeah,
systematically.
Throughout it. Like, say if you get to a spot where you love your website, back it up right there, then keep going.
Well, and not only back it up in at least 3 places. Have 3 copies of your website at all times. Your production website, a local copy on your desktop, and then a cloud copy somewhere else.
Yes.
So if you hosted Hosterian, we have 2 copies at all times. We have the production copy and a copy off-site, and we highly recommend our clients to have their own copy somewhere too.
There you go.
And with Backup Guard Pro, it's super simple to do. You can literally schedule a job in Backup Guard Pro. You can put one in Dropbox. You can put one in Google Drive.
Click, click, done.
Done. And then schedule it. I will highly recommend to check that regularly. either write a monitoring script to check to make sure that it's actually getting backed up, or at least once a month, go check it. Go check and say, hey, is my backup there? Yeah. And if you're really making a living off your website, like if your website is your business, then you should schedule time to test recovering from a total failure. Ooh. Right? Open a maintenance window with all your customers. Say, hey, our website's going to be down for this amount of time. Delete the website and recover from backup.
Interesting. And
test. So have a quality assurance checklist going. We use Paperform for that. So if we have
Paperform is so awesome.
It's really cool, right? So if you have 100 things that you want to test, make a Paperform for those 100 things. Make them check boxes, and have somebody go through each one of those check boxes. Test it, check it. Yep, it's good. And when everything's checked, hit submit. And then not only that, you have governance. You have an email from the Paperform that says, I checked all these things at this time. I can't tell you how many times if something's been broken. Like, how long has it been broken? I don't know. Was it broke after our last? Oh, I didn't check it after our last update.
It's like, dude.
Like, well, you were supposed to check it after last update. So those kinds of procedures are things you get if you're with Hosterian that I don't know that you get other places. Right? You definitely don't get them unless you're doing it yourself. And if you are doing it yourself, make a checklist of things that you want to test after backups. After every time you do an update.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times somebody has installed a WordPress plugin that broke some other function on their website.
Yeah.
Happens all the time,
yes.
Right? This is why some of those like high-end WordPress sites, hosting companies, and I don't like using them at all, restrict the plugins you can put on.
Right.
Right. It's very limited on the plugins that you're allowed to install.
They tested those and they know that these are not going to destroy the rest of the site.
Right. And they've been tested cross-platform with each other, right? So this works with this with no problem.
Right. I think to also answer the question too, I think my biggest disaster was probably when I broke the Hosterian site with that picture.
Yeah.
I was playing around with pictures, trying to figure out how to make this like page look. I'm like, I don't like that. Moved it. Don't know what I think it's like the theme or something. I don't even remember.
Oh, you changed the theme on accident.
Yeah. Playing around, trying to make something move, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is all through our website right now.
Oh, you were editing the theme.
I don't even remember what I did.
That the whole site's built on.
Yeah. It was bad, man. The colors were all over the place. Pictures were in the wrong spot. Text was not where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yes.
But luckily we had the backup.
Yeah, and we have multiple backups.
Right.
So,
it was fixed pretty quickly.
Yes.
Pretty quickly. But that's the importance of having some kind of backup plan. And if you're not going to be just like you said, if you're not going to have someone else do it for you, you have to be that backup plan. So you're either planning to succeed or you fail to plan. Right. If you fail to plan, you can't blame anybody else but yourself. Correct. That's part of the risk that you're taking if you're going to build your own website, right? So you have the support of someone like Hosterian. You can push off that liability and say, now you're responsible.
Yeah, building websites, like building your own car. You can do it. You absolutely can do it. Should you? I don't know. I know a lot of guys that build their own cars in their garage. They love doing it. If you like doing it, do it, right? If you don't like doing it, hire somebody.
Or if you don't want to do it.
Yeah. Or if you just don't have time. That's my problem today. I don't have enough time to work on I don't have time to work on my own website, so I have to pay other people to do it. So that's it.
There you go. So, if you guys have any more questions, make sure you text me at 314-216-2040. Text me questions that you have. Maybe you have another question from a different podcast. If you have another topic you want us to dive into because you're having a real big issue with it, make sure you text us and let us know. All right? And don't forget to subscribe to all the different platforms, every one of the ones you're watching us on. Make sure you rate us. Give us all the stars. All right? All the stars.
Or how many ever stars you think we deserve. If you want to contact me and you want to join my text community, feel free to send me a text at 314-370-2871. That's 314-370-2871. That's my personal text line community, and I will send you tips and tricks about business, websites, cryptocurrency, non-fungible tokens, whatever's up on my mind that day.
There you go. All right, guys. You guys have a good one now.
All right. Get to work.
Make it count.